Okay. First, let's start with Dave Filoni, supervising director and executive producer. Next up is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar, the seventh sister. So like I said, you guys, Sarah has to leave pretty quickly, so if we could start with questions for her, that'd be great. And I'm just going to do a show of hands. Right there, with the green lanyard R2 shirt.
Sarah, hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
I was wondering just how is New York Comic Con better than every other Comic Con?
Because it's in my hometown.
Yeah.
I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I mean, just this morning I was going to an interview this morning and I was walking up the street. Might have been a few minutes late, there might have been some panic going on the street on live television. And my best friend was just walking from dropping her daughter off, like literally on the street. And those are the moments that only happen when I'm home. And, you know, in your car, you should have that same interaction.
Lucas?
Sarah, you talked a little bit at the panel about playing a villain. What has surprised you about playing a villain in Star Wars Rebels?
How much I enjoy. You know, it's always fun to play like characters that you least expect. And what I really loved, like I said about her earlier, was she's such an intelligent, she's a thinking bad guy, a thinking villain. And everybody wants to be the villain. I mean, come on. Plus you get the way better outfits.
Gentleman in the maroon jacket.
Hi, Sarah. Just wanted to ask, can you talk a bit about being in the recording booth and your experience in there when you had to wield a lightsaber? Are you acting it out, or are you?
Being in a booth is the greatest thing ever. It requires absolutely no hair and makeup. It doesn't even require a shower because Dave's on the other side. So it's like, I mean, I don't even have to go that far. It's extremely creative. It's very free. They dim the lights. You have that room. I'm one of those people that has to use my entire body when I do stuff, and so I wield my imaginary lightsaber when I'm in there. It's so weird they don't bring those to recording sessions, just because I have to get into the physicality of it. But it's really freeing because you're just not as self-conscious because you know that they're not seeing you look like an idiot wielding an imaginary lightsaber. Although I'm sure Dave probably videotaped it many times on his iPhone, and I'm sure I'll be getting videos. But
you do a lot of great little things that we use in the animation with your hands or your face, and so a lot of that will plug right in.
Just because you're in a recording booth, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be fully in character. It's just you don't have to sit through the hair and makeup. And so when I was finding her and finding things like the hands and whatever those things are that help you get into character, and then you would start seeing them in the drawings, and it's a really great reciprocal process and creative.
Brian?
Freddie talked about like how they almost had to like bamboozle him into the audition process where like he didn't know he was going in for Star Wars, and
He did not know.
what was your experience like on the opposite end of that coin? Like how did you get in for the part? How did you find out you were actually going to be doing it?
I made them write it for me. No, so Freddie didn't know, and when he found out, I mean, talk about, a little boy Christmas. He couldn't believe it, and it was someone who told him. It's someone somewhat famous that he saw that at the audition that gave him an inkling of what it was, and I'm trying to remember. He probably would tell the story better, and he was over the moon, and he was so excited to be a part of it, And this cast is so incredible, and they work together. What's I think really interesting about this process, and I couldn't always participate, but when I could, I did, is they record together. It's not, a lot of times with animated, you're in a booth by yourself, you do your lines, you go home, and they really record it like a show, like a live show, and I think it makes such a difference in the performances because they're actually performing off each other. And so, especially in the beginning when I was really getting to know everyone separate from being the wife of, I really enjoyed being able to be in the booth with them, and it was awesome.
Right here in the maroon top, yeah.
Hi, I was just wondering, with your do you compare it all for the role? Like, I know you've had other villains for your particular cool adventures, favorite villain.
Mine too.
I'm just wondering because I saw the clip of the panel and it kind of reminds me. I don't know why, but somewhat a little bit of the manipulation that the character has transparent.
Well, it's sort of like when they say that it's so coincidental that Buffy and I look a lot alike, because they all are versions of me. So I think that does probably come into play. And they videotape our mannerisms, and so it definitely, I mean, I hope I'm a little more original than that. Hopefully maybe it was my voice that reminded you of it. But, you know, again, it's all where it comes from.
One last question for Sarah. I mean the R2, yes. It has to be.
Hi, I'm like R2, that's not R2, that's actually me. That's not R2.
Oh my gosh, I was looking.
Oh, and I didn't see it. I couldn't see it on that side. I was like, that's actually me. I was so confused. I so could not see that. That's the greatest bow, by the way.
I'm trying to support both.
Thank you.
So I've been a huge fan of yours for a long time, and I've been following your career for years. Obviously, Star Wars attracts a huge fan base, fanboys, fangirls. There's a lot of them in this room. I'm wondering what, as Sarah Michelle Gellar, what do you fangirl about?
I'm in Star Wars. I mean, like, come on. You know, I don't think, and I don't know if it necessarily hit me right away when I was like hitting everybody up for a role on it, but you know, for the rest of my life, like, I am now part of this family. I'm part of the legend. I'm part of the lore. I'm part of the story. As Ashley has proved, like, you never know where someone's gonna pop up, and that's, you know, and I'm also, like I said earlier, I'm looking for some street cred. I'm tired of it being Charlotte's daddy's a Jedi and Charlotte's mom drives carpool. So, like, I'm also really hoping that I finally get some cred with the kindergarten crowd.
Thank you.
All right, well.
What?
That's really Los Angeles problem.
It's a really Los Angeles problem, right?
Well, I'm gonna stop here and
I will. I do have to leave, but
doing this.
I just want to say, and I want to say to Dave, and I want to say to everybody and everyone here, thank you for welcoming me so much. I mean, I feel like there could have been this sort of backlash of like, I'm taking away from Star Wars or being a part of it, and I've been so honored and so excited to be included by all of you, by all of the fans, by everyone, and it really is a dream come true to be a part of this, and hopefully next Halloween there'll be a costume.
Hope so. Or sooner.
Or sooner. I mean, well, I have a week. I have a couple weeks still before.
Yeah.
I just am looking for costumes. But I just really wanted to say thank you, and thank you for, like I said, for being so welcoming to all of you guys too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye,
All right.
Sarah.
Who's next? Hands. Right here.
For Dave, I guess. This Rebels has like a really original movie feel. Even the music, the score has. How do you work with your team to keep that authenticity of the show?
I don't know. It's a lot of work. We study and study and study, and you know, for the past 10 years, you know, I was really lucky to do. You know, we did over 100 episodes of Clone Wars, and while that style is different, it's like a long research paper on Star Wars. And working with George definitely helps. All the decisions I make on this show, just like on Clone Wars, I make based on what he taught me. There are different things that I would do as my own creative person, but because I'm working in Star Wars and it's a well-defined, you know, universe, I try to make decisions that are good for Star Wars. I've never seen myself as someone controlling of it or that it's my thing. I've always respected that I'm a shepherd of it, you know, and that's my kind of Jedi role in this whole thing. So I think we've gotten good at it over the years. It takes a lot of trial and error. Some episodes are better than others, but yeah, we do what we can. And Kevin Kiner definitely has been my composer now for a long time, 10 years, and we work really well together. I don't have to give him much direction. I'll just mention certain things, you know, certain temp references. There'll be something in tonight's episodes that we screened that probably most of you that are film fans will watch it and go, oh my gosh, I know exactly what movie this is. And in a good way. You know, you always have to do these homages in a good way. So I'll look forward to those questions. But yeah, it's just, you know, like anything, practice, 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 and you try always to get better.
Right here.
Watching the trailer,
I think you can expect a lot. I mean, to say it's the season of the ladies, I think it's just, I'm just trying to get to a point where that's just the way it is. It's equal. You know, it's, right now it's great, and a lot of times it's special. But the reason it's special is because it's so uncommon. And when you go down that thought process, you realize how sad that is. You know what I mean? And my wife is hugely educated and knowledgeable about, female fandom, female point of view. Obviously, that I don't have those perspectives. So she's been tremendous about, educating me over the years on what's important to her as a fan. And I've tried to apply that. All I can really do is create opportunities and bring some balance to the force here. And I think that you see the reaction from the crowd. I mean, the guys like Hera, she's an awesome pilot. You do these characters right, they are for everybody, but I think hopefully very empowering for young girls to look at Hera and Sabine and say, wow, they're awesome. Sabine reminds me of Boba Fett, if you like. So we just got to keep that ball rolling. I think that a lot of creative teams in the industry are going that way now, and I think it's a very good thing.
The character development that you're doing in season 2, is that going to have far-reaching, effects to the whole team on the Ghost?
Yeah, there's they need to learn more about each other. They have a common cause, fighting the Empire, but they don't know the details of each other's backstory. You kind of don't ask those questions. Certain people know certain things, but you find out that even though Hera is pretty much the leader of the group, she doesn't know all the details about everyone, even like a character like Zeb. So I think it's fun, once the audience kind of accepted them as characters and brought them into the Star Wars family, now you want to go, so hey, where are you from, or what's your family like? And the trailer, there's a little thing there that Sabine says that if you're a fan of Clone Wars, it has way more significance than if you don't. If you don't know, it's just Obi-Wan saying, yeah, your father fought in the Clone Wars. But if you do know, you're like, oh my gosh, that has big implications.
Way in the back.
Oh, hello.
Hello again, how are you?
Hi. I've been following the Kanan comic, loving it. It's just absolutely wonderful. And so I'm wondering if we're going to see references from the Kanan comic or from A New Dawn or any memories showing up in the next season.
I don't know if references is the way to go. It's just all part of the same story. So, when Greg is working on that comic book, I'm very aware of it. Especially, it's got Kanan, so I'd be aware of it. It's got clones, which I'm a bit of an expert on. So, I would tell him certain things I thought they would or wouldn't do. And I think that everybody who relates to that book has done a tremendous job. I think it's, really well written. I think it's beautifully drawn. It's something to be really proud of, and I like seeing these characters in different medium. I like that they're not drawn specifically this show style, because then to me it's like they just are characters existing in the Star Wars universe, and you realize they could exist in any medium. They're not dependent on the medium. They're just characters. So, if fans want to cosplay a Hera and do a live action version, I'm all for it. I love seeing that stuff, but it is all connected. I don't know that you would see anything specifically called out, but I won't say that I don't look for that. If it works, it works.
This is for all three of you. Now you know that Star Wars land is coming to Disney.
Yeah.
If you could do anything with any of your characters, because Ahsoka's already there. She was already at Star Wars Weekend and stuff, but going beyond that, how would you like to see Rebels possibly included in that expansion?
Oh, that's a cool question. Ezra hasn't done any pod racing, but I think it'd be pretty cool if you could ride along with Ezra in a pod and actually Autopia kind of at Disneyland. I don't know if people know that, but bring something like that where you were driving a pod. That's so cool. Yeah. I don't know. Let's make that happen.
I think obviously what Clone Wars did and now Rebels is doing is it's filling in the gaps. So these characters are a part of canon. They are a part of the overall story. So I think if there's a ride or a storyline that has all of the characters and maybe takes you through multiple stories, I think it's natural that our characters would be there and be a part of the ride. So that would be cool if they were involved in the overall storyline, because it would be natural that they would be a part of it.
Well, from my perspective, the Rangers have knocked the Penguins out in the playoffs the last 2 years, and since you're wearing a Rangers jersey, I can't be compelled to answer your question. That's the easiest out I've ever had. That's very nice of you. Congratulations on your win last night, though. That was impressive. So you're off to a good start.
You can tell Taylor and I know nothing about Star Wars Land, and he does.
Baseball came to a sudden end for me last night, so thank God hockey's about to start. That's all I can say.
Lily?
How long can I make that sound? I wouldn't say you'd see a jump necessarily. We did it in a very strange way in Clone Wars. We did it in the middle of a season. If I did it, I wouldn't do it in the middle of a season again. So I like that, though. I like changing the way the characters look. It drives some cosplayers nuts, but I mean, if you look at the way you dress in junior high, right, and then you look at the way you dress in junior year, it's different. And I think that what I'm always focused on is trying to make these characters reflect their personality changes, even through the way they look, what costume they wear. I mean, Luke does that brilliantly, right, from the beginning in A New Hope to the end in Jedi. So I think as I use it to symbolize character change and evolution, yeah, they probably will jump a little bit at a certain point. Not maybe that long, but you know, I also like the idea story-wise that time passes when the kids are away during the summer and they come back in the fall and they're like, whoa, you know, yeah, that happened to me at school. Your friends would go away in summer, they come back in the fall and like someone's really tall and someone looks really different. So whenever there's a real-world connection, I enjoy that, because anything kids also go through can be a powerful thing when you tell a story with it.
Oh, good. Hey, I was going to ask you guys, now that we got James Earl Jones coming back as Darth Vader, how does it feel to have the original Darth Vader on the show, and what are we going to see from Vader in this upcoming season?
Well, I thought it was the coolest thing hearing that. I remember you guys played the smallest little, because he didn't come in to record with us. He's on Broadway right now working, and we heard a little clip of him in the booth, and it was the coolest thing ever, because you're like, oh, that's Darth Vader. So that was very cool. But how he's in it, I don't think I can talk about that.
Well, I think, you know, we're all Star Wars fans, so we're like everyone in this room. The fact that I get to share the screen, my voice gets to share the screen with James Earl Jones, I just can't even comprehend it, quite honestly. So it's amazing. I mean, and several other actors have returned from the films. And then also, you know, getting to work with Sarah Michelle Gellar and so many just amazing people. It's surreal, you pinch yourself. And in terms of what Darth Vader does this season, I'll pass them.
Here we go.
Yeah, well, it was, you know, there's so many things in a day when you work on Star Wars that, I mean, I just show up, I get to start to talk about the Jedi and the Empire. I mean, whatever you want, right? Every day is pretty good, no matter how much work it is. And then some days you walk in and you just talk to Darth Vader. You know, and he's there, and we piped him in the Skywalker Sound, and Matt Wood and I are sitting there recording him. And it's one of those rare times where you just kind of almost break your facade and you're like, this is so cool. You know, because Matt and I are like, that's Darth Vader. And he's like, David, is there a way you'd like me to read this line? I'm like, just like that. Like exactly like you said. And he, you know, the first thing he said, and you don't think about it, but when he went to record for us, he goes, I haven't done this in 10 years. Could you, you know, help walk me through it? How you'd like it to be read? And I was like, you don't need to walk through it all. Like everything he does. The big difference I've seen is like there are people that can imitate Darth Vader, right? You can find people that do a pretty good job. But James brings a performance level to it that I always find goes beyond just the idea that he's this evil villain menace and really captures more humanity as a person. And you hear it, and it's so different. When it comes on in the trailer, it just, you know, it's so amazing. It's undeniable truth of who Darth Vader is, and that's what I like, and I'm very grateful that he takes the time, you know, to do our show, because it's just fantastic.
I feel feel like you've had your hand up the whole time. You, yeah. Yeah.
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Well, in the last episode in the last season, when Ahsoka kind of sensed Darth Vader, and Darth Vader, it seemed, kind of sensed her, will there be some kind of confrontation or some kind of, a la Return of the Jedi, where they're kind of feeling each other out? And will there be some kind of reckoning between the two of them, the ex-master and an apprentice?
That would be cool.
You can use that.
That would be really neat. I mean, that would be something I've thought about for a long time. I'll say this about it. I mean, it's the character opportunity to have Ahsoka in the show and to have Darth Vader in the show. It demands addressing all the questions you're asking. There's never really been a Jedi quite like Ahsoka before. Someone that walks away from everything before it all falls apart. That earned her a certain position apart from their way of thinking about the Force. That doesn't mean that Vader would have sympathy for her whatsoever. There's a lot of, I think, in people's minds, unfinished business between the two, things left unsaid. So I find all that very interesting as a director and a storyteller. It's kind of dangerous storytelling, obviously, because they have very, great skills and sharp lightsabers. So that's a dangerous part of the story, but it is something that I, of course, talked with George about before George was done. Over the years when we worked on Ahsoka, that idea would come up. What would happen to Ahsoka if she ever met Vader? Everything like that. I always made sure to cover those questions because, I will always respect that he's the creator of Star Wars. I always respect that he, took the time to teach me and gave me this job. And I always want to think that if he sees these episodes, it's something that he would like. It's important to me as this whole thing moves forward. So I base a lot of the storytelling on discussions that he and I have had. And, some things I've done my own thing now and changed things, which is it's just the evolutionary creative process. But it's been thought about for a long time what would happen. So we'll have to wait and see this year what happens.
This one's mostly for Dave.
Yeah.
We've got the clones coming back, Ahsoka's back. What about Tarkin or any characters like Yularen? Will we be seeing any of them come back from not just the Clone Wars, but Tarkin and Yularen were obviously in the New Hope? Any other original trilogy characters that might be making their debuts in Star Wars?
I think it's always a possibility. And we're very cautious. You don't want it to be like This Is Your Life show. And it's hard because you want to tell great stories, and when you're in the Star Wars universe, you want to see those characters, right? Because that's why you're there. And so there's an argument that way to say, well, why this is a small universe? I'm like, yeah, but this is the universe of characters I like. I don't want to go to that universe and not see these people. That would be almost weirder. So, the thing that weighs in favor of Tarkin is I have that CG model, so I don't have to spend cost building it, so that's always weighing in a character's favor. Yularen would be great, just, for Tom Kane, because Tom was basically the only guy that's in every single episode of Clone Wars. So I would love to have him back. We just, you need to find a story that would use him. As long as it's important to the characters of Rebels, then I'm all for it.
Thank you.
This is for Dave. You guys can as well. My question is about the story, how Rebels affects the films going forward. The fact that Fulcrum is mentioned in Aftermath, that Rogue One is coming out, and I was wondering how much you're allowed to play with, either from the expanded universe or from the other films, and how much influence the show has on the movies and vice versa.
Well, everything affects each other as far as their time period is concerned, and as far as you think it would echo out. If it makes sense, if someone down the line is creating a story in whatever medium, it doesn't have to be a film, and you say, okay, this is a rebellion story, and they have a secret agent for the rebels that's feeding information, story group's going to say, well, we have that, and we call them Fulcrum here. Now, does it make sense to be called Fulcrum there? What's great is that we have a group of people that are now fully aware of all the continuities. that can reach out to the different creatives and keep it all in line. So, you know, if there was a movie that was very close to the time period that I was doing, then we would be in constant contact. I mean, I've met all the directors of all the films and talked with them, and it's fun. You know, a lot of that we just do politely, but a lot sometimes, you know, we talk creatively, just, you know, because it's Star Wars and we're all fans of it. We all grew up with it. This whole generation of lead creatives grew up with Star Wars. So we just all have that in common, and everybody's kind of like, can you believe what we're doing? It's so fun. So the important thing is the story group kind of binds us together and keeps the continuity straight. And, you know, could it affect the film? Sure. Does the film affect us? Sure. But it works all directions, and even, you know, as mentioned with the comic books, video games, the best thing I can say about it is it's just an effort by a group of people that love Star Wars to try to make it all great, all work as well as you can. We don't ever want to put something out that's just like okay. And I want to make an animated series and people are like, yeah, that one was okay. You know, you try to make it the best you can, whatever that bar is, so the fans are always equating a high quality with Star Wars, which makes it very tough. But I think that's the challenge. That's what we have to shoot for. And, you know, so far, you're so good.
I just want Ahsoka and Rogue One, that's all.
Is that right? That would be great, wouldn't it? Yeah, I would really. How about that? Yeah, I couldn't say. That's when you get me in such a dangerous zone, right? Of, you know, see how I'm stopping myself.
John and Marie?
Hi. So we see the return of Rex and Gregor and Wolf, but there were so many young clones still in production and being trained. So could you tell us a bit about what happened to them? There are millions of them, I'm sure.
What a dangerous question you're asking for an outcome you might not like. I mean, there are so many stories in this galaxy. Definitely there have been stories that I've thrown around about different clones and what's happened to them. Some clones, you know, probably, I'll be honest, some might still work for the Empire in some capacity, but mainly they're on dock duty. They haul cargo containers. They're doing menial stuff like that. They're old now by that time. And even the younger ones, you know, they would age quickly and be decommissioned. I'm sure they fought for a period, but, you know, at the end of the day, as they get older, they're a bit twitchy because of all the programming. And clones go through a period where the way the Order 66 works is that if a clone, because this just happens in life, if a clone won't execute the order for whatever reason, that would happen, just on probability of how many units they created. So the process doesn't take hold with everybody. Well, the minute that clone says, I'm not shooting my general, the clone next to him blasts him. It's a sub-order within the command structure. So all those guys are eliminated. But they had strong personalities. I think what you saw is over the years after Order 66, a lot of the clones sit there and think about what they did and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we did that. Some of them in their morality go, I can't believe that we would have shot these Jedi generals. Some of them believe the Jedi were corrupt, and they believe they had every right to. And the Jedi in Revenge of the Sith talk about that. Obi-Wan and Mace Windu and Yoda know that if they make a move against the Chancellor, it's going to be seen as treason. And so Palpatine's right about that. Like, when Mace Windu walks into the office to arrest him, they're okay. When he moves to execute him, they're under arrest by rule of law of the Republic. Mace Windu doesn't have the authority to execute the Chancellor of the Republic. He would have to be put on trial. So when Anakin walks in the room, he's effectively stopping a crime by saving the Chancellor. I mean, that's how good Palpatine is. You see what I mean? It's not such a, well, we know the story, we know he's evil. But by rule of law, now what Mace was trying to do, we know is a good thing, right? Kill this evil, horrible person. But, you know, so many complex issues around the Clone Wars, which made it a very interesting and difficult TV series to make, especially with that ending, you know.
Thank you.
The gentleman behind Lucas. Sorry.
So this goes both Taylor and Dave. Based on the continuity, I think the theory at this point is probably completely crazy. But I'd love to hear what you think of the fact that there are fans who actually think that Ezra may become Kylo. Yeah, it's an online theory that Ezra
Is that possible?
and they figured out how it would actually work, and there were the ways for it to work. So
I'm more excited about this answer than you are. I am.
It's so nice. No, I mean
that would be awesome.
It's amazing how people can bend anything around to how they want reality to be. Especially you over there.
So is that a yeah?
Fan theories have never cease to amaze me. It's you can make the most general comment, and someone will show you a whiteboard analysis of how this could be true. The last thing I ever want to do is be like, no, of course not, because then all that work is for naught. But don't get excited down there. I mean, just go see the movie.
They got Fulcrum right.
Who did?
Fans. They figured.
Look at you. You're on the wrong side.
No, I'm saying they could figure that out. And
well, I couldn't answer anything about it, even if I wanted to. But I think that's a pretty big stretch. I mean, personally, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's a pretty big stretch.
I need to look this up now.
Yeah, that'll be great. See what you've done? Now my own is against me here. You're pestering me.
That's pretty cool.
Start a blog. Don't feed the fire, Taylor.
So, question about Inquisitors. We've seen Darth Vader go through his redemption phase where he was once good, became evil, and good again. Now, are Inquisitors inherently evil? Every single one of them? Are they out to just kill everybody and call it a day?
Interesting question. I mean, we get a little bit into what an Inquisitor is this season. A lot of it still, even though he's dead, the Grand Inquisitor, the Inquisitor from season 1, he has an impact on season 2. Learning about his character helps you understand the Inquisitors a little more. What does any evil character want then, right? Like, what does Palpatine want? He wants order. He wants to be in charge. He wants power. He wants immortality. He I guess he thinks his way is best. I think the Inquisitors, you have to ask, well, why do they want to be an Inquisitor if not to seize power and control? And when you're doing that for yourself, right, that is not a good thing. You have to be selfless with that power like the Jedi are. But even they, in the end, are corrupt on some level by fighting that big war. Call it a day. I think they don't call it a day until, they go down that path of wanting more power and destroying more people and then try to destroy Vader, right? And they want to sit at the top of the food chain. They might start out by thinking, I just want more power than that person. But it becomes an obsessive thing. The next thing you know, you're controlling everybody and everything, and they want to get rid of you. So it's a kill or be killed philosophy with those guys. Right now, they're survivors.
No redemption at all.
The redemption part is really tough. Look what Anakin has to go through, a complete selfless act to, destroy the Emperor, and then he doesn't, get to survive that, certainly, because he still committed terrible crimes. He's still done horrible things, so there is some type of, consequences for their actions. Redemption, I don't know. I mean, I think you always have to say that it's possible, but I think it's difficult. It's a difficult thing for people to believe. Would you believe Palpatine if he said he's a good guy suddenly? I mean, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one to sell. But like you say, like what you're talking about becomes an interesting story. It's like Ventress. Can Ventress be redeemed? Is Ventress a fully fledged villain? She seems to get in big conflict with that. And that's what George and I were really interested in when we worked on that character. Ahsoka, yeah, you can question on some level Ahsoka because she walked away from the Jedi. But as I pointed out today at the panel, she might be more right than most of the Jedi. Because she walked away from something saying, hey, this is kind of corrupt. You guys didn't treat me fair. You thought I was guilty. Why didn't you believe in me? I did everything you taught me, and then you turned it against me. What's that about? So she asked some important questions. So in the end, young people ask questions. And sometimes, they're right. The system's messed up.
My 3-year-old son and I play Disney Infinity a ton, and his favorite character by far is Ahsoka. So I just wanted to let you know that. And I just wanted to ask, well, how cool is it to be in a video game? And when you're recording lines for the show and everything, are you guys together? Is it easier that way, or do you record alone, or how do you do that?
You know, the video games are different than the series because in the series we do, for the most part, get to do group records, which are amazing. That's something Dave stressed from day one with Clone Wars, and I know with Rebels. But with video games, it's different. You are in the studio by yourself, and you record, for the most part, the entire game in one day. So it's a long day. It's 3 to 5 hours and hundreds of lines. But I have to say, I actually had a chance to speak with, his name was, I think, Daniel Cabrera, one of the creators of Disney Infinity the other day. And got to hear a little bit more about the game and how they made it. And he said, actually, that he's finding that a lot of kids and a lot of boys are playing Ahsoka and they're so proud of it because they actually designed her where she is one of the best characters. Like her I guess her fighting skills and everything. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with the game, but she is one of the better fighters in the game. And at D23 actually, they had the game set up, and I walked up and there was a little boy playing Ahsoka, and there was 30 characters he could have picked, and he chose Ahsoka out of all of them, and I stood behind him for like 5 minutes. I think his mom thought I was super creepy watching him play this game, but I was so fascinated. I thought it was really cool that a little boy picked it, but I think it also goes back to what Dave and his crew and the amazing writers on the show have done with all the female characters, and you brought it up on the panel. They don't point out that these are girls. They're just really cool characters. And so when you write it correctly, in my opinion, I know you brought it up, you look past the gender. And that's how it should be. And I think it's a true testament to how they've created these characters that you and your son love playing Ahsoka.
Nice. This for Taylor. Where do you see Ezra's progression Jedi-wise in season 2? Just coming from off of like Vader.
Yeah, he's toughening up and he's taking the reins a little bit more, and you can tell he's a cocky dude. And so that comes out a little bit more because now he's a part of the Rebel crew and he's seeing how he's actually needed at times. So through season 2, a big thing is his parents. That's something that they need to address and get through first. So that storyline plays out a bit, and it can go a variety of ways. But aside from that, he's getting better with the Force, and what he can do with the lightsaber is pretty cool now. So I'm excited for people to see where he goes in the next season.
In the very back, with glasses. Yeah.
Question for Ashley. Just curious, did you have any input into what you thought Ahsoka had been doing between last time we saw her in Clone Wars and her return here? Is that something that you kind of had any ideas of that before, either before or that you kind of pitched out in the entire process?
I do joke about this all the time because my ideas are not the best. I don't.
True.
I more joke because I don't have any input. I like to ask a lot of questions to try to find out as much as I can.
Yeah, that one idea of what she was doing that I shot down.
What, that she ran a pony farm and baked cupcakes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one.
Kristen Hidalgo.
You thought that was funny.
Yeah. Kristen Hidalgo, Pablo Hidalgo's wife, is a big fan of Ahsoka, and as with many of us, it was very traumatic when she walked away, and we wanted to know where she went. And so to provide happy thoughts, she said that Ahsoka went to a pony farm and baked cupcakes. So
It's more of a safety thing for you.
It was more of a safety thing.
Safe
But,
place. Yeah.
I am going to go back to kind of the answer I just said, and I mean, literally, Dave and the writers from Clone Wars and in Rebels are just top notch. I mean, they're so fantastic, and now the story group and the stories that they come up with are way cooler than anything I could ever come up with. Dave lets me give a lot of input in terms of her portrayal and her attitude and how I would say lines. And certain times, there are certain lines where I would say, Ahsoka just wouldn't say that. She would say it this way instead. But in terms of coming up with the story, I will leave that to
And
this
I think
guy.
the important thing, though, is at the point that we're going to perform, there's always, you guys have to have read the script, and I go over the whole thing with them before we even get into it. And, you know, I'll explain what my thought process was and what I think this story is about. And, you know, I love actually when they have questions the day that we're going to perform, because then we can really, you know, dig deeper into the character and their psyche and what we're trying to go after. Ian Abercrombie taught me that when he played Palpatine on Clone Wars. He would have a lot of questions about his character motivation, because he was basically in his mind playing two characters, and he's like, am I giving a shade of this character that moment or whatnot? So, you know, I think the important part is that, you know, you have always had input, and a lot of who this character is, in a lot of ways, is based on each of you. You know, as I've gotten to know you guys better, and I, you know, will write specific things in to remind me of you guys. And we know Ahsoka well, you and I, over the years, and so I think what you see is where we both believe the character would be. I just spare you, you know, certain details like the end of it this season. I mean, you know, and how that would go, because you don't need to know that. And I enjoy when you watch something and you don't know. It's fun for me to see how you react to it. So I have to keep small Star Wars fun areas for myself, and that's one of them. So.
Of course. There are hints, though, as Dave mentioned in the panel. Listen closely to this season. Oh. There are literally like just little lines and sentences that if you're not listening, you'll miss it. And it is like hints about what happened.
Between Rebels and Clone Wars, I had to explain kind of the history to Dee and Ashley of what happened to them between where we last saw Ahsoka and where we pick up. Where we last saw Rex and where we pick him up, because their characters know that stuff. And so I want them to know that stuff so they can factor all that in to their performance. I think it's really important, because we're going for that level of detail in all things. So, and there's a little bit of that in the screening tonight. A little bit.
Is that not a story you'd like to flesh out in a comic book or something?
You know, we're really careful about what stories, especially from Clone Wars era, that we decide to release in a different medium. You know, for me, ultimately, Star Wars is a film. Star Wars is a moving picture. I think that Star Wars works best in the way it feels and is executed when you have music with dialogue and the action and sound design. I mean, and that's not to say that some writers don't do an incredible job at recreating that in your mind when you're reading a book or in a comic book, but there's some stuff that I still hold out hope in the future I'd be able to bring to the screen somewhere. And you know, if there's a Clone Wars story that I could still do that with and find a way to do it, I would do it. It's just a matter of timing. There's so much Star Wars in play right now. Literally, you know, for years we know what we're going to be doing, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we're just careful about which ones we choose to put in. I would rather, though, have the story get out for the fans to know than it never get out at all, which is why I've been a part of, you know, some of these novels that have been made, and, you know, just advising them and handing off the scripts that we wrote, because I wanted those stories to be told, and at that time I wasn't sure how much would get out or not. That's why I released some story reels online, like the Bad Batch and the Utapau arc, just so people can see them.
Just tell us, we won't tell anybody.
Yeah, right.
The gentleman standing, yes.
This question is for Taylor. Ezra's grown a lot over the season, and you're a young actor. Can you talk about sort of your own growth as an actor, playing this character who's also kind of growing up, and you know, are you drawing on those, or just how have you changed playing Ezra since you started?
Oh yeah, 100%. The next season, just acting-wise, was so fun for me, I thought, because there were so many more levels, and that came with the maturation of Ezra doing as he got older. And I remember specifically telling Dave, I don't know when, I guess it's not specific, I don't know what episode it was, but we were in there, and there were so many lines in a row where I was like, dude, I just thought this like 2 days ago. And they loved hearing that, but it's a testament to them and their writing that, yeah, I'm feeling the same kind of things, and especially with the Force, and I think that goes for everyone, just a thing of patience and when I feel strongest, and this is out like just in every day, really parallels what Ezra's going through, and I feel like I'm getting a lot stronger with the Force as Taylor as well. So yeah, it's been a fun next season definitely for Ezra and the whole Rebel crew.
Don't choke the engineer. when you get angry.
Yeah, right?
The Grand Inquisitor's fighting style is very unique, swashbuckling, almost like Errol Flynn with a lightsaber. Is that something that's common to all Inquisitors, or was that just him?
Just him, really. They're all different. They actually all use a similar weapon. They're all trained with that spinning lightsaber blade, so it's just a good identifier. You try to have strong identification character elements for the audience, so you know that's an Inquisitor. But you know, the Seventh Sister is a little more probing. She's her attack style is quicker. It tries to draw out. She tries to see what your weakness is and then go for it. As you can see in the clip, she was mainly trying to capture them in that clip and disarm them, knock them down. They all just have different ways. It helps their character, little differences, so they're not just all the latest guy who wears all black. I've been trying for years to figure out. I've wanted to do like a, I never should talk about this stuff, but I will. I've wanted to do like a all blonde-haired villain that wears all white. I just think that would be really cool. I've never found a way to get that in yet. I just think it's so different, you know, to turn that kind of stuff on its head and say, you know, it's one of those things. Sometimes the most beautiful character, the most appealing person can actually be the best disguised, most evil. I mean, what is the Emperor if he's not grandfatherly to Anakin, right? He's seeming a person that you should trust without question. So, I don't know. I haven't been able to lure us into that gingerbread house yet. We'll have to see.
What are you saying about blonde hair, Dave?
Nothing. I'm just saying it's just a variety. You know, it's just a variety thing. I actually, well, that's why Satine was blonde, because back in Clone Wars, I noticed there hadn't really been a lead in Star Wars that was blonde. So I thought, yeah, why not? Why aren't we doing that? You know, I just don't. Just look for. I love saying we haven't done that before. Let's do that. That's worth doing. You know. Let's broaden the vocabulary of what this can all be. That's something George was always after. He was never afraid to do something, to attack it and go after it. And sometimes the audience was like, not ready for that. You know, that's different than what I know Star Wars is. I'm like, yeah, but what you're defining Star Wars is a very narrow thing. And he was always trying to widen it and say, but it could be anything. You know, Star Wars at its best when you're not relying on everything that came before, but you're saying it relates to life. It's why it's so powerful for us all. It relates to our everyday. It's just in a fantastic setting. You know, and that's the human quality that Star Wars has.
Well, you guys, I'm getting the sign that we have to wrap up, so I would like to thank you guys again for being here, and really, first and foremost, thank our panelists for just being so awesome.
Guys, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
What was your question? I just want to know